Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, an update on business and tech-related bills making their way through the Statehouse. A marketing tech firm is making the move to Indianapolis. An effort to bring more film and TV production to Indiana grows. A new student business program focuses on artisan cheese. Fishers unveils its nickel plate trail master plan. And our insiders have perspective on the week's top stories. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. Several business and technology-related bills are in front of lawmakers, among them a hate crimes bill and measures covering data center taxation and regional development tax credits. Genovis Executive Managing Director Larry Gigrich joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick with an update.
All right, let's talk about the hate crimes bill. We knew it was going to be a hot-button issue going in, passed through a committee earlier, and then midweek, amendments were put in to essentially take out various groups.
Yeah, a really surprising development in a 24-hour period.
Right.
So Monday had a hearing, testified, as you noted, in support of the bill, and overwhelming support. I mean, almost triple the number of people testifying in support as compared to opposed. Passed out of committee 9-1, overwhelming support from committee members, and then was was amended on the full Senate floor on Tuesday to remove all the list of protected classes.
What happened?
You know, it's really hard to tell.
Yeah.
The momentum coming out of the hearing was very, very positive, and the belief was it would pass the full Senate with the list in there. I think there were some concerns about it standing up to legal tests, and then partly some concerns about if you put in a list with some people, could some people feel like they were excluded from protections?
And I should mention that another vote may take place as we're taping this edition of the show. So that another moving piece in the whole dynamic. Why is this so important? Why is this so important for the business community, technology community, and economic development?
Well, in my testimony, I really focused on the talent issue. That's really what it is about. When 80% of companies make decisions in terms of projects where they're going to locate them, talent is the number one driver. Right. And we have to do everything we can to show that we're welcoming the talent, in particular as we try to get people from out of state to come to Indiana.
Okay, all right. Several other key bills making their way through the Statehouse. A regional development tax credit. Now, that's somewhat of an alternative to what was the Regional Cities Initiative?
Yes. So the idea behind the regional tax credit is to encourage individuals, corporations, other organizations to invest in important regional projects. Mm-hmm. Tax credit can range from 15 to 25%, depending on how it fits into a regional plan, but could be a real catalyst for investment in the regions around the state.
And that seems to have support?
It has momentum right now. It's being currently reviewed by the House Ways and Means.
Another one, important one, taxation on data centers, which has been up before, but there seems to be some momentum. Why is that an important bill in your view?
In particular with Indiana, it's not been competitive for data center projects. We have business personal property taxes and then sales taxes that affect energy and the purchase of equipment. So it's been very hard to compete, especially in the Midwest with Iowa and Ohio that have attracted companies like Facebook, Apple, Google to put in large data centers. And getting it out of the House by a vote of 95-1 was a huge step forward in the past week.
So you think this has some
I think it has a real chance of getting done this time.
Tourism is big business in Indiana, but over the years, the state has really not funded tourism to the level of other states. There's a measure now that will create a public-private partnership, essentially, much like the Indiana Economic Development Corporation for tourism.
Yeah, I think it's a huge step forward, and give credit to Governor Holcomb and his team for taking a hard look at this issue, recognizing that we were losing tourism and hospitality dollars and saying we need to create a different entity that would allow us to raise money from the private sector and foundations and not just rely on state government money to lead tourism development in our state.
All right, lots going on at the Statehouse. You're a busy guy, Larry Gigrich. Thank you for taking time to stop here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Still to come, doubling down on an effort to bring more film and TV production to Indiana. And IU touts a research funding record. But first, marketing technology consulting firm Lev is moving its headquarters from Arizona to Indianapolis. The company plans to hire 70 employees this year as part of a previously announced expansion plan. CEO Michael Burton came in studio with more.
First of all, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the move, the Lev model, what it's all about.
So our focus is we're a team of consultants that focus on marketing tech. We're working with some of the largest brands in the world, helping their CMOs best figure out how to leverage Salesforce to have like actual meaningful and measured results.
And you talk about Salesforce, you're a real partner with Salesforce. That one of the attractors for you to come to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's an important part as we're so connected into that ecosystem. Being able to look right across the street, invite people over, as we're working really closely together, it was an important decision for us.
I remember having the story on the show 3 years ago when Lev established a location here in Indianapolis. That has grown now with the decision to locate the headquarters operation here. What were the factors really driving the move?
So when we look at it, we've got about 120 people total, 70 here in Indianapolis. The big factors that are behind this are just the talent pool. Looking at people that have marketing tech experience is really important to us, and just great university programs, IU School of Informatics, being plugged into TechPoint, or a fellowship program, this great pool of talent, and also the experienced marketing tech people connected to Salesforce as well. That's what really made this an easy decision.
I was going to ask you about that. When we talk about marketing tech, because Indianapolis has really established itself as a hub, as a center for marketing tech. Did that kind of weigh into this as well, having this the talent and the other expertise in that area?
Yeah, it's important for us looking at just the kind of needs from our customers, having that strong marketing tech experience. As digital marketing continues to grow, there's just not lots of great pools of talent, and we just happen to be lucky to have that right here in Indy.
Yeah, we saw some video earlier of the announcement this week of the headquarters move, and you talk about talent, because that's a big issue, not only in technology, but across all sectors, and of course, not only here in Indiana, but around the country. As you look at that tech pipeline, a lot of universities, colleges and universities, world-class in Indiana, how do you assess the talent pipeline here in Indianapolis and beyond in the state of Indiana?
We think it's fantastic. I think that's why we're so plugged into the universities here. Looking at computer science, informatics, there's just a tremendous amount of talent. So we're trying to ramp up our recruiting efforts to get our name out there in front of more universities, because we need that talent coming in from the new college grads immediately. You
got the now hiring sign on it, Lev. Give us an idea of some of the kinds of people, the talent that you're really looking for.
We're looking for people that have digital strategy experience, marketing, advertising, ad agency experience, and lots of technical consultants, in addition to people that have kind of customer success, account management. Those are really high priorities for us.
All right, another tech company hiring, moving its headquarters to Indiana from Arizona. Lev is the company. Michael Burton, the CEO. Michael, as always, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Later in the podcast, IU attracts record funding for health research, and farming is at the center of a student entrepreneurship program. But now, supporters of a movement to attract more film, TV, and media production to Indiana say Indiana has lost at least $80 million in that area since 2016. House Bill 1070 aims to address that. Indianapolis Film Commissioner Teresa Sabatine and screenwriter, producer, and director Angelo Pizzo talked about the effort.
I'll start with you first, Teresa. In terms of this bill, it's a rebate. It's a different path, a different ask of the legislature. Give us in a nutshell what you're asking in terms of the incentive.
Yes, so a rebate versus a tax credit means that the production has to spend the money before they receive the percentage back. And so what we're looking at is a 20% rebate on in-state spend in the state, and then a 30% workforce rebate. So that means that if you hire locally in Indiana, you get 30% on that workforce spend.
The bill has received a hearing, not a vote yet, but what's been the reaction from legislators?
We're pretty excited actually about what we're feeling over there. We've had some exceptionally robust conversations. We're getting really great questions. We feel like we've been able to educate over the 2 years that we've been trying to get this done, and that the Senate fiscal leaders are kind of next on our list, and we'll be visiting them soon. Yeah,
Angelo, well known in the movie business and among many movies, Hoosiers and Rudy. And we were talking in the social media lounge. You said today if you had to do Rudy and Hoosiers, you wouldn't be able to do it.
No, we would be fiscally irresponsible because in states like Illinois with 25% tax credit, Kentucky with 25% tax credit, and Ohio with 30%, we would be giving away 30 cents on a dollar if we shot Hoosiers or Rudy here in this state. Wow. So it would be very unfortunate if we had a movie called Hoosiers all shot in Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely. But you talk about this being really a jobs and economic development, type thing, and the fact that Indiana stories, I mentioned Madam Walker, among others, are not being told here.
That's right. We've been told anecdotally how many times that people travel over the world. And we're talking about governors who tell me that people always bring up the movies Hoosiers and Rudy and Breaking Away.
Right.
And they're part of the iconography and the culture and perception of who people are in this state. Well, are not able to tell those stories anymore, and it's really unfortunate because I think we take great pride in those movies.
What could this mean from an economic development standpoint? I mean, just generally speaking, especially as I look at it in some rural areas of the state as well, many of them that need help, that could potentially benefit, I assume.
Yeah, so you're looking at business that we could be recruiting from Illinois right over the border. So northern Indiana would be, southern Indiana is beautiful in its own if we're looking at French Lick, right? There's great opportunity there. We already get requests for filming there. But when you look at the economics of it, and Tennessee's a great example because they're a rebate program, that's $91 million into their small businesses over a few years of just having this infrastructure in place. So Nashville, they saw $480 million in tourism spending associated with their bill and what they were doing with programming. So these aren't small numbers, and we really want the Indiana stories out there.
And Angela, we should point out too, we think of movies and film, but digital media content is so pervasive now and so much larger than it was obviously just a few years ago.
Right. There are over 500 television series on the air, streaming or direct. Netflix and Amazon spend twice as much as the studios combined. There are $300 billion worth of content spend in this country alone that we're not getting any of. And I'll point out that there are states like Georgia, which started off with a 20% tax credit, and the economic impact was so great, they kept on raising it, and now they're up to 30, and there are more movies shot in Georgia than there are in California.
Right. So as we wrap up, 10 seconds, you don't know where it's going, obviously, but do you feel good about the reception that this bill is getting?
Yeah, we feel very positive. We think it aligns very well with Eric Holcomb's next level opportunities for Indiana. This is really thinking about the future, where everything's kind of going, and how we can create innovative jobs in the state.
All right. Teresa Sabatine, Angelo Pizzo, thank you both very much. We'll be following the story.
Thank you.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, we spotlight a student artisan cheese enterprise, and Fishers unveils its nickel plate trail master plan. But now, researchers at the Indiana University School of Medicine received a record amount of funding from the National Institutes of Health in 2018. The school says it attracted nearly $150 million in funding. Associate Vice President of Research Dr. Anantha Shaker joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
To give us some perspective about what this ultimately means for Hoosier patients. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the school for setting a new record. 10% increase compared to 2017, but you say even more impressive is if you look at just 5 years ago.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's been wonderful growth for us. 5 years ago, we were ranked 39th, and we were somewhere in the 100 million range. And now in 5 years, we've grown 50%, and we're ranked 33rd in the country of the 140 medical schools that are here.
It's an impressive climb in a short amount of time. So this ability to steadily increase funding over the last several years, even in a very competitive environment, what is causing your ability to do that?
Well, I think, it's a combination of several great factors here. First of all, we do have very talented research faculty at the School of Medicine, and we are a very collaborative environment. So we have wonderful collaborations across the university, with Purdue, as well as other, research institutions here. I think the second thing is we have built a lot of infrastructure, wonderful infrastructure in terms of ability to help scientists do great research and get great funding.
And what this funding, how does it ultimately connect to Hoosier patients, bedside?
Yeah, obviously, when we do cutting-edge research, we're also bringing cutting-edge treatments and diagnoses for patients. So for the first benefit, I think, is that we actually provide the best care and really cutting-edge care to people in Indiana. And I think in addition to that, it also brings a lot of new talent and new sort of approaches to improve the health of the communities. And of course, all of this funding also helps jobs and other kinds of positive things in the community as well.
So speaking of jobs, funding, how does it connect to the private sector? What does this mean for Indiana's business landscape?
Yeah. I think it benefits business landscape tremendously when you have a highly funded research institution. It brings new scientific talent to the community, which businesses benefit from. It also creates new intellectual property and products that help local businesses, startup companies that come out of these discoveries. All of those help businesses as well. And I think importantly, it also helps the communities, makes them healthier communities that attracts more businesses to this city.
And Hoosiers play a role in this. All in for health. Really, how do patients help promote that? And tell us a little bit about that new effort, what it is.
I think what we're trying to do is engage real people, the Hoosiers, in actually telling us what's important for them and how we can do research better with them as partners. Because most clinical research requires insights not just from physicians and scientists, but also from patients and families. So we understand disease better, we understand problems better by engaging people. So All In for Health is one of those efforts, is that it's a platform for people to sign up and be partners in research with us.
And online, something you can log on to.
Yeah. It's online, it's confidential, and it's voluntary, and we send out a lot of information, and they can participate. They can tell us some of the areas that they're interested in research for us to do as well. And
we have just very few seconds left, but you also founded the Indiana Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute. Yes. What role does that play in this? That's a very important infrastructure institute, and it provides like the support structure for putting together multidisciplinary research programs. Always multidisciplinary is always important. Collaboration. Yes, that's what is the true secret for success these days. Well, Dr. Shaker, thank you so much for being here, and good luck raising even more funding next year. Thank you. We hope to do that.
Later in the podcast, details on a 20-year plan for the Nickel Plate Trail and perspective on the top stories of the week from our panel of insiders. But now, Paramount Schools of Excellence in Indianapolis is offering students a unique entrepreneurship opportunity. Paramount Brookside's Farm is a licensed dairy operation and hub for its artisan cheese enterprise, and it's cared for by students. Paramount Schools Executive Director Tommy Reddix and Farm Director Chris Larson joined us for our Eye on Education segment.
I think this is a really cool story. First of all, Paramount Schools of Excellence. Talk about the school itself, near east side of Indianapolis, a charter school. Give us kind of the model.
Yeah, we opened in 2010 with about 369 kids, kindergarten through 8th grade, a mayor's authorized charter school. Since that time, we've grown to over 800 students in the same area. We serve the Brookside community, basically around 16th and Rural, and really like to offer an authentic, hard-working, let's get everything done in one building and be productive members of society kind of model. Yeah, well, you talk about your performance, 2018 Blue Ribbon School, an Indiana A and 4-star school. Again, 900 plus students, 88% are from households that are at or below the federal poverty line. Sure. Our families face a lot of challenges, and we want to be there to be an anchor in the community to support some of those challenges and to come alongside them to help in that journey and make sure that we're giving their kids an excellent opportunity for success down the road. Chris, and I think this is really fascinating. You've got literally a working dairy farm at the school producing cheese that is available in a number of places around the state. Give us that model in terms of the working farm, the dairy operation, how the students get involved.
Absolutely. So we have about 5.5 acres in the entire school campus, and about 1 acre is taken up by our practices. That's a herd of 6 dairy goats, a flock of 21 chickens. We keep bees in an apiary, and then we have a vegetable production garden. And students are involved in multiple levels levels across the board throughout the school year, making connections to their classroom curriculum, and then over the summer being hired on as student workers.
And they are actually producing cheese that is sent out and consumed in the general public. Joseph DeQuee up in Northeast Indiana, which is a very famous restaurant in the state, is one of them. Talk about some of the places where the cheese is offered.
Yeah, so we make two types of cheese, an aged goat cheese and then ricotta. And the aged goat cheese goes through retail markets such as Goose the Market, Wildwood, Tyner Pond Market, and then our school market. And then the ricotta is featured on menus at places like Ashen Elm, Cannonball Brewing, Grand Junction Brewing, and then up at Joseph DeQuee.
Tommy, as you look at the need for a function like this, talk about the rigor of the classroom work and things, and the need for this kind of thing in your curriculum offerings.
Right. The intensity of work that goes on in our classrooms is really important, and it's really integral to the success of our kids. But if they can't balance that out with an authentic experience, it's kind of recharging. We feel like that we're going to reach burnout, and there's no way to sustain. And so having some of these really rich programs like the cheese making and the gardening and the summer employment really provide balance for our organization and enable us to keep thriving.
As we wrap up, as you look for opportunities for growth, can you see whether it's the dairy operation or other operations on the farm and the urban agriculture piece, do you see that growing?
We do. We think as we grow, we want to continue to scaffold excitement around our academic model and create these authentic experiences, especially in environmental education and STEM, where we're finding some great success.
And the kids, the experience that they have when they leave the school, that's really hands-on experience.
It's hands-on and it's practical working knowledge. They're going through true job opportunities and gaining lifelong skill.
Yeah, amazing story. Paramount Schools on the near east side of Indianapolis, really an urban farm, a dairy, and I'll look for the cheese as I get around to restaurants around the state of Indiana as well. Tommy Reddix, also Chris Larson. Thank you both for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Gary.
Bye.
Still to come, our panel of insiders weighs in on the week's top stories. But first, after more than 30 public events and meetings generated over 1,500 ideas, Fishers has unveiled the Nickel Plate Trail Master Plan 2040. Reporter Mary Rachel Redman has the story.
Well, Gary, city officials tell me this truly has been a community-led effort. After more than 30 public events and meetings and over 1,500 ideas submitted by residents and students, the Nickel Plate Trail Master Plan was born in partnership with consultants EX2 and Seattle-based architecture firm NBBJ. The trail itself will stretch from 96th Street to 146th Street in Hamilton County and feature the following 5 segments: the Makerspace and Innovation Zone, Nature Park Zone, Downtown Active Core Zone, the Wellness Zone, and the Park and Education Zone. The planning process included input and ideas from more than 200 students, ranging from elementary all the way up to high school. Organizers say almost every idea from students at New Britain Elementary, Harrison Parkway Elementary, and Fishers High School found its way into the plan. Some of the trail features include LED paving, a drone zone, pavement warming markers, public art, and large hammock areas. Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness weighs in on the process and potential for the Nickel Plate Trail moving forward.
This vision that our residents have been working so hard on. We've had a committee of dozens of residents, along with hundreds of kids actually participating, bringing their ideas about how to make this asset uniquely a Fishers story. And I think the vision is spot on, and I can't wait to share it with the residents.
And this is probably the part that I've been most impressed about the community and the people that are engaged. We've gone out to students in schools and elementary kids. We're coming up with projects and ideas for what they want to see. And when you think about it, they're the one's going to be using the trail, and so it's been super fun. We've been all over events and try to go different places so we hear different voices, and gotten over probably 1,500 ideas of what the residents here actually want to see. And we said, we want you to be big, we want you to be bold, but we want you to be original too. Think beyond just what a trail could be and what you think of.
In all honesty, it's going to be one of the most unique pedestrian experiences anywhere in the country. Not only can a resident go there just for the usual, going for a jog, going for a bike ride, but it truly will be a destination as we roll out the plan.
Construction on Phase 1 is slated to begin this fall. The first phase will focus on downtown Fishers from 106th to 126th Street and include a pedestrian tunnel under 116th Street. I'm told the long-range goal of the project is to collaborate with other municipal partners in an effort to eventually connect the Nickel Plate Trail to Noblesville and Indianapolis, potentially creating a 40-mile loop throughout central Indiana. Gary?
And really a unique piece of this looks like it's the student participation, really hands-on in crafting it.
It was amazing. These kids put together projects. I mean, kids from 7 years old, you know, as old as 17, and they had projects that they're going to see put into place, and they're going to be able to use that knowledge and have fun.
And their kids will use it as well.
Yes.
Thanks very much, Mary Rachel.
And finally, our group of insiders offers perspective on Indiana's top business stories. This week's panel includes Kiwanis Youth Programs Executive Director Christina Hale, Vox Global Managing Director Mike Marker, and Clear Object CEO John McDonald.
An eventful week, certainly at the Indiana Statehouse. A number of measures making their way through the Statehouse. The one getting perhaps the most attention and the most spotlight, most debate, John, is the hate crimes bill. And passed out of committee, but then the protections for groups were taken out of the measure.
24 hours later.
Yeah.
And I can tell you in the technology community, we have been on the telephone almost 24 hours a day with our business leaders. We're standing with the governor. He said this does not get us off the list of states that do not have hate crimes or bias crimes laws, and he's exactly right, and that's exactly where we stand.
You know, the business community in general, tech community in particular, has been very vocal about why this is necessary to have this hate crimes bill go through. Explain again to folks who may not understand why it's so important in your view.
Capital and talent fuel the technology industry, and the technology industry is every industry. It needs to be every industry, and you need to see it that way because our manufacturing companies need to survive by teching up their products. And if we can't compete for talent because people don't want to live here or move here or work here because of backward policies like this, we will have no future in our technology industry and no future in our business here in Indiana. It's just that simple.
That's exactly right. And let's take that to 30,000 feet. It's not just the tech community, it's all of the business community. I work for a global headquarters. It's over 100 years old. We're in 70 countries. And I'll tell you, we hear from our members everywhere about Indiana. Is it even safe for me to travel there? Because our reputation precedes us, and we need to let people know. We have to have everyone know that Indiana truly is about Hoosier hospitality and caring about all people, and it's time to walk that talk.
Some have hearkened back to the RFRA controversy of just a couple of years ago, that might in fact re-emerge. Now, we should say, as we're taping the show, there is a vote likely taking place. Don't know how that's yet exactly going to turn out, but is there that risk that the unwanted spotlight from outside of the national spotlight will shine on Indiana?
Absolutely. We saw that. We saw in every newspaper all around the world how many people questioned us and questioned Indiana and our very values as citizens of this state. And I really appreciate our governor taking this leadership to say this isn't right, not on my watch, and there's still time. So I hope that our legislators step up and do the right thing.
I think the unfortunate reality is hate crimes are on the rise, and the number of hate groups are on the rise as well. And that's why Hoosiers have overwhelmingly said that they are supportive of hate crimes legislation that is comprehensive in nature. That's why Governor Holcomb has said it matters. It's why the business community has spoken out. There is overwhelming support for this. And what the Senate did this past week is an embarrassment and a disappointment. It comes over to the House now, and the pressure is on Speaker Bosma and the House to make this right.
The tech community, the business leaders, but not our legislators. And that needs to be said and heard. That's a miss. And
we don't know, but what happens here if this is done? The governor's been very vocal, very supportive.
Yeah.
Where does this?
To the House, right? Opportunity now.
Yeah.
Everybody says we have the rest half of the session to go. That's true, right? We're even more emboldened to help that group of legislators understand the big miss here.
And I think part of what happened here in this first half of the session was people wanted to avoid RFRA 2.0. They wanted to avoid a national spotlight here on us being on the wrong side of history potentially again. And so the hope was that the right thing would be done in the Senate. It wasn't. And so now it's on the House and the pressure's on them, and we're going to see likely a lot more national attention on this. and hopefully the right thing can get done.
Yeah, we'll obviously be keeping an eye on that story. Very quickly, John, another tech issue is this data center taxation bill that's going through that seems to be gaining some momentum.
Right. We triple tax data centers for infrastructure purchases, for property taxes, and for the utilities to run them. And the argument in the past has been, well, these don't create many jobs, but these tend to be the first things that companies like Google and Apple put in before they bring in the call centers, before they bring in the sales centers and sales support centers. So we're just completely nixed from the list before we even get a shot at these things. And this is where all the data goes in the IoT economy, and we got to be there.
All right, shifting gears now to development, redevelopment, economic development in communities around the state. Christina Fisher's unveiled their master plan, 2040. Got students, young kids really engaged in this. A very ambitious plan creating 5 distinct districts throughout the area.
Yeah, and it really harkens back to our earlier conversation as well about talent. This is about talent attraction and really finally being strategic as we grow communities of tomorrow. That's where people are going to want to live, play, spend their time. And we know that populations now are very transient. They go where they want to live, not necessarily where their jobs are. And we also know there are metrics out there that can tell us that people choose to live and then grow a career around that. And this is really capitalizing on some good thinking that will really lift up Central Indiana.
Yeah, and Mike, projects like this aren't just good things, important things to do, again, for that talent attraction piece.
Absolutely, and one of the things I'm excited about there is the Rail to Trail initiative, the momentum behind that. And not to forget the assets that are currently there, like Conner Prairie, what they're doing on the White River. And I think what you see happening there is good for employment. It's good for talent attraction. It's also making it a destination that people would like to come from, a Chicago or a Cincinnati or other places to come visit, spend their dollars, spend their time.
Should mention also, Mike and John, you can weigh in too, but Lev, again, a marketing technology company, had a presence here, moving their headquarters from Arizona to Indiana, adding to this hub, this vibrant ecosystem, if you will, of marketing technology companies.
Yeah, the 3-year success story, moving their headquarters here. They talk about how each space they go into, they keep growing out of, which is a nice problem to have. One thing to watch, though, they're a Salesforce partner. Yes. Salesforce is important to them. Back to hate crimes, Salesforce is pretty disappointed right now in what's happened. And they were part of the RIFRA initiative, too. So if we want organizations like Lev to grow, we need to do the right thing.
Even the great celebration going on of the Fisher's rail history in this project doesn't overcome that problem. It really doesn't.
One issue too I should have mentioned at the Statehouse, Indy 11, Indy's soccer team, have for several years ownership been trying to get a new stadium. There's a big proposal out there now. That proposal at the Statehouse is moving forward. Got some positive reaction for what ultimately could be, if it happens, a new stadium and mixed-use development.
And once again, this is about vision for neighborhoods and growing places to live, thrive, enjoy. Sport has been a great strategy that Indianapolis and Central Indiana has tended to double down on for great effect. Ursal Ozdemir once asked me, Christina, where are the visionaries that are looking at the horizon and seeing the next tall building? I think he's seeing the next community being built around something like the Indy 11 Stadium.
Interesting. Christina, you're a Boilermaker, right?
I am.
Purdue, Mitch Daniels, again, a lot of schools have taken on this affordability issue, but I think Purdue in a lot of ways, and Mitch Daniels has taken a leadership role, announced this week for the 8th straight year, I think they're going to keep tuition frozen at 2012 levels.
It's fantastic. I really appreciate President Daniels really looking at a student perspective. It's not about keeping tuition affordable. It's providing value for the dollars that you do spend. You get an amazing, globally renowned degree for a decent investment.
Yep. Mike, speaking of Purdue, a climate report came out, an annual report from Purdue University this week that essentially said with global changes, global warming, whatever you want to call it, businesses stand because of cooling costs that are going to be out there and on the rise and in demand. Indiana businesses stand to be footing a much bigger bill.
Yeah, I think the findings from Purdue said up to $100 million annually that businesses might see by the mid-century. It's good that they're coming out with those findings. It's also nice to see Indiana University with their Environmental Resiliency Institute that's working with community, local elected officials to plan for what comes next. So what if it's infrastructure, roads, bridges, waterways, that they can address the big climate change that's ahead.
Speaking of, as we were earlier, quality of life, quality of place, the Indy Chamber has unveiled plans for a music strategy, trying to leverage the heritage, the history, the diversity of music that already exists here, but really trying to amp that up and make that part of the culture, part of the vibe here in Indianapolis. What do you think of that?
Well, we need to do some things at the Statehouse as well around making that a good place to build businesses as well. I mean, when you're doing the community work now of building programs for Netflix or music or whatever, these are really small businesses that you need to get venture funding for and the like, and we're kind of keeping that down in our business community now, not seeing them that way. So hopefully we can wrap around that effort some things to build those companies up too.
10 seconds, Christina, what do you think? Good strategy, good idea?
A very good idea. I'd also like to emphasize Film Indy is pushing forward tax credits for the creative industry.
That's right.
And that really goes hand in hand with that as well.
All right, Christina Hale, Mike Marker, John McDonald, thank you one and all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.